Are you thinking about quitting your full-time job to start a Pilates career or even open up your own studio? Before you make that jump, I'm going to talk to you all about the realities, the goods, the bads, the uglies, the difference between teaching, managing, and owning, and how to pick what certifications or Pilates route is right for you. Hi, my name is Mariah. I haven't been in the Pilates world for too long, but I've done just about every role. My credentials are that I worked in the franchise industry, specifically in boutique fitness. I was right alongside my mother as she bought a franchise, opened up 2 locations, and then sold them. I was the GM of a club Pilates, and I've instructed at a bunch of different places, some franchises, some not, some athletic, some a little bit more classical, some contemporary. I've worked full-time and part-time as an instructor, so I've been around the block. First, we're going to talk about the different types of Pilates and their certifications. You want to choose with intention. So before you jump in, you want to know what kind of Pilates certification you want. There's 3 types of Pilates. Classical Pilates, which is the true Pilates. Contemporary Pilates, which kind of feeds off of that and adds a little bit more modern elements. And then we have athletic Pilates or modern Pilates that isn't really Pilates, but they call it that. Classical Pilates follows Joseph Pilates' original work with some small deviations depending on if you're with somebody that was like a 2nd gen or 3rd gen, but mostly it's going to be fixed sequencing, emphasis on precision and control, and strong lineage and tradition. So this is going to attract somebody that prefers the structure and discipline that it brings. It is highly respected. I 1000% recommend it. And I think whether or not you go this route, you need to take a classical Pilates class to understand the differences in your body. Contemporary Pilates is going to be like your club Pilates type. It builds on the classical method, but it does start to deviate here. It's a lot more flexible with the sequencing. There's a lot of influence from modern anatomy and rehabilitation. Contemporary Pilates is usually going to use a different reformer as well. Classical Pilates is going to stay with mostly like the Gratz reformer or something of that like, where it's all the same spring. It feels a little bit more like you're moving through mud, whereas contemporary Pilates machines are going to feel a little bit looser. And lastly is athletic or modern or performance-based Pilates. This isn't real Pilates, I'm sorry. It might take from Pilates elements, but usually it's more of a Legree type. Pilates, to use that word, you do not need any type of licensing or pay any royalties or anything like that to use that specific word. Whereas Legree, you do have to pay. There's a Legree method, like there's money involved, so you can't just use it as you please if you're opening up a studio. I think that's why a lot of places are opening up saying that they're Pilates and they're not. You will know because you'll walk in and there's not a reformer, there's a mega former or an X former or something that has like bars on both sides and there's no foot bar. It's going to be high intensity and you're going to be moving super slow on a 4 count and you're doing a bunch of lunges on a light spring. Not Pilates. They call themselves Pilates. They're not Pilates. Just know what you're getting yourself into. I happen to like those classes, but I know that I'm not taking Pilates. This is why it's really important that you do your research and try different places, try classical, try contemporary, try athletic based, because you might think you want one thing, but actually enjoy a different form a lot more. Why? Because this is going to lead you into choosing your certification. Not all certifications are equal, and you can't teach at all different places with just one type. Some are like 300 hours, some are 500 hours, some are broken into mat reformer, other apparatuses, some are broken into levels. Lower hour programs are often not fully comprehensive, which might mean that you're only teaching mat or you're only learning mat or you're only learning a system that is selective to that studio. So for example, when I was at Body Bar, they had their own certification. I could only teach at Body Bar. I could not take that certification and then go to work at a classical studio or Club Pilates because they require 500 hour. In my Body Bar, I only learned mat and reformer and tower, but I didn't learn the barrel. I didn't learn the Cadillac. When I did my Club Pilates training, it was 500 hours and I learned all of the apparatus, so I could teach on all of the apparatus. And these certifications are not cheap. So if you are going to spend the money and the time, I recommend that you just go for the full 500 hours, and I recommend you go classical because you're learning the true Pilates method as it was intended, and then later, if you want, you can learn other ways of doing it and kind of go from there. With a classical certification, you will probably be able to teach everywhere except maybe an athletic reformer place. A lot of studios offer a bridge training, so if you have a 500 hour, they'll give you some sort of like discount and like smaller training that you're just kind of learning their method, but you still have to pay. So it's important that you get the 500 hours and you advocate for yourself and say, hey, I have this experience, I have this full certification, I was classically taught. Maybe since I have all this experience, you know, you guys would be open to paying that. And some places will, they will pay for your training. Others, they're gonna be like, this is our bridge training, you either pay for it or you get lost. Pilates studios are a dime a dozen, so don't be afraid to ask them to cover it. If they want you that bad, they will. If they can't do that, you know, it's your option. But before you enroll, you're going to want to look at how much the program costs, how much testing costs, how much time it's going to take you, all of that jazz. It is costly, but you are learning a life skill that you're going to be able to take with you till the day you die. You don't have to recertify or renew or anything. Like on paper, you should learn and can continue to learning, but you don't like have to keep it up. So you can take that certification through you with life, like as life goes on. It's really important that you take classes everywhere, get a feel for different places, take contemporary, take classical, take athletic, understand what you want and what you like before you pay for it. If you only want to teach mat and that's only your thing, and maybe you have a yoga certification, you think it'd complement it, you know, maybe only do some mat certification. You don't have to go the full 500 if you don't want to. I just recommend it because you are spending all that time anyway.
Also, when I say 500, what I really mean is just fully comprehensive. So it's going to be around 400 to 600 and maybe more hours.
That might not be accessible for you in this moment. You're just trying to like get right out of the gate. Just understand the cost before going in. And another thing with cost is you're going to want to calculate how many classes you're going to have to teach to make up that money. Like I said, it's around like $3,000 to $5,000, around something like that. It's a couple G's. Do the math. If they're paying me $35 an hour when I first start, or if I'm an apprentice, like how many hours do I have to work to make that money back? Now we're going to talk about part-time versus full-time instructing. Part-time is when you're having a stable income elsewhere, or you're just looking for a little bit more flexibility.
Part-time is also excellent when you're between jobs or in a life transition and you need something hourly.
This is the best point of entry for most people. Why? Because if you have a full-time job and you're able to keep it during this time, it's a good idea, because then you can get an actual feel if you want to take this on full-time. It takes time to get good. I would strongly advise against deciding that you want to do Pilates, doing the certification, and quitting your job immediately, because learning is a lot more different than doing and living that lifestyle, and you're going to want to try it out first. Just trust me. Some instructors can do like back-to-back all day. They could do 5 classes and not even sweat. They could, you know, go teach somewhere else after and teach here and here, do a gazillion classes a week, and they are fine and they are happy, and they're happy as a clam doing that. I, on the other hand, cannot. I teach 3 classes and that's like my mark. If I teach a 4th, like I'm starting to wither away. Like we're still good, but by the end of the 4th, I'm done. And you need to know that about yourself before you quit and do it full time, because if you do, it can lead to burnout. It's important for you to understand what type of person you are before you commit full-heartedly to full-time, that is. There are big pros and cons to working as an instructor. The pros are that it's fulfilling, it's fun, it's a pink-collar job. You get to make people feel good and feel confident in their bodies and teach them about their bodies and watch them like realize in real time like how to change something. Like I need to just do this, and like this makes more sense for me, whatever it is. And it's honestly beautiful. Pilates is a beautiful thing. And it's a magical place to work in. It's fun, but it is work. With instructing, you rarely get any benefits, rarely. You rarely get sick time. Some places will, to be a little bit more competitive. Same thing like with PTO. If you do not work, you do not get paid. That's a huge thing. So if you want to go on vacation, you might just be doing that fully on your dime. You might not be, you know, have any vacation time that is paid. So you teaching directly influences your pay. I know that is like a given, but when you move from like a full-time salary position into a full-time like hourly position, it's just a completely different ball game. So understanding if you're the type to get burnout quickly beforehand is probably going to save you more than it's going to hurt you. So you need to teach enough classes to sustain yourself. And when you're first getting out there, you're not going to be paid as much as other people, of course. who've been in the game forever. Another thing is that different studios have different pay rates. The athletic Pilates studios are going to be lower. I'm going to tell you that right now because you have a smaller certification. So of course they're not going to pay you the big bucks, and if you have like a 250-hour certification on just the reformer and you've been teaching for like 1 month, they're not going to pay you as much. It might be looking like $35. That's like kind of around the starting point, and you have to be comfortable with that until you work up your skills. I've been at studios where they pay 45, where they pay 50. I've been paid 55. I've been paid 60. It all depends on the studio. It all depends on like what certifications you have. The nice thing is that right now Pilates studios are a dime a dozen. So funny. So do your homework, go try different places. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And also advocate for yourself. If you know you're good, you've practiced on your craft, like don't be afraid to ask for more in a professional, polite way. But if you don't ask, you don't receive. So at least try. Everybody's gonna always try to pitch you the lowest pay possible. Try for like $5 more. Now we're gonna talk about the reality of instructing. Most people want to become an instructor because they love the craft, or they maybe met an instructor that like changed their life and changed their body. But being on the outside versus being on the inside is two completely different things, and there's a lot of things that I didn't realize when I had first, started my journey. Number one is that liking fitness does not automatically mean you're going to be a good instructor. Teaching requires communication, for you to be adaptable, for you to emotionally regulate yourself, and that you're responsible for other people's bodies. You're responsible for their whole experience. People are entrusting you with their bodies, and you have a duty to learn as much as you can and practice and develop your craft because they trust you. So if you come out of the gate and you cheated the whole way through the tests and you don't brush up on your anatomy every now and then, like they're gonna have to suffer because of it. I've seen people love fitness and then come into it and they are just mean-spirited, nasty people. And that is great that you found something you love, but you're probably not the best instructor, because studios are a safe space for people and you have to hold space for others. And if you're just mean-spirited, don't be an instructor. It's not a place for you to be nasty, to be unkind, to be impatient with others. You're dealing with real people and real people's bodies. They do not spend 24/7 thinking about Pilates, so you should not act like they are. A lot of people learn differently. They have like auditory processing. Maybe they learn better by doing. They learn better by seeing. A lot of people need to see your mouth to understand what you're saying. And having a classroom full of people that are learning differently can be a lot. So you have to really be on your game and not get frustrated with people. Sometimes it's like, come on guys, you can't tell. I said straighten your legs 16 times, you're still not straightening your legs. It happens. You have to overcome and meet them with empathy and understanding that this is not their life. This is a small part of their life, and you're very lucky and blessed to be a part of their life. So be kind. Really want to get that through, because I've met a lot of instructors who are not nice. Be nice. A big thing, like I said, is emotional regulation. You have to come in and perform. It is a performance. You are instructing, you are showing, but you are performing. They have the experience that you are giving them. I'm huge on like instructor, like developing the experience for the member or the client. They are paying a lot of money to be there and to work on themselves, and it can be intimidating and scary and like bring out a lot of your insecurities. So it's up to you to create a safe space. Unfortunately, like if you're having a bad day, like you just gotta shake it off and be there for them. That's what you're being paid to do. There are times where I just wanted to cry and like lock myself up, but I had to cry in the bathroom, throw some water on my face, and get this shit going, because I had a job to do. It's just like any other job. And a lot of people just want to teach and leave, and that's not the case. You are a part of a team, you're working for somebody, so that means you are doing the sound, you're a sound technician, you're a mic girl if you have microphones, you're checking people in, you might be doing cleaning after, technical difficulties. You have to constantly be open to learning. Once you get the certification, yes, it's yours to keep, but you have to still continue learning and doing the work and taking classes. It is so obvious when instructors don't take classes anymore, or their heart's not in it anymore because they're dry, they're flat, not giving you anything. Like, you have to work at this to be good at it and continue working at it. You owe those people who are entrusting you with their bodies, you owe them a true experience where you are engaged and you are knowledgeable and you are creating a safe and welcoming and happy environment for them. That's your job. It is an incredibly rewarding, amazing thing to be an instructor, but you need to work at it and understand that it's still a job. Like, I feel so lucky and blessed that I was brought into this industry because I've met so many amazing people, and you become friends with all different walks of life. Like, there were people when I was at Body Bar in Florida, there were people that were like in their 70s and 80s that I would have never met. Just finding things I had in common with them and like being able to watch them grow. Sometimes you think like because somebody's older, like they can't learn something from you or you can't learn something from them when you're in like the position of like the instructor, but you can. Like, it's such a beautiful relationship. And I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it because I miss them so much. But just the stories from people and like all that they've had to overcome in their bodies, it is a beautiful thing to be an instructor. And if you choose this path, you won't be sorry as long as you really think about it and be serious about it and lead your path with intention. Now, if you want to become an owner at some point, which like 90% of us girls that instruct, like half of us want to own our own thing one day. Managing a studio and being an instructor are two very different things. If you want to own your own studio one day, I implore you to try taking on a leadership position at your studio, whether it's like a lead instructor or instructor management position, or even working the front desk and like seeing the true understandings of a studio. You don't have to be a GM like I was to understand, but it's certainly helpful because managing people is a lot of work. Managing a studio in any capacity, you need to be scheduling people and dealing with scheduling. And I'm going to tell you right now, to schedule instructors is not for the weak. It's not for the weak, girl. Payroll and admin, you're doing a lot of administration work. Staff support and staff development, you're responsible for them. And then member retention and experience, making sure the studio is running, that people are happy. You will be the complaint department. Congratulations. Personally, I thrive at being the complaint department somehow. I don't understand, but like people come in crying and then they leave like thinking I, moved heaven and earth for them. You are the person that they go to when something is down. A lot of the times, of course, you get that rewarding, beautiful thank yous and experience, like all the connection, but when you're managing and owning, it's just a completely different ballgame. Great instructors don't always enjoy managing and owning, and like that's okay. So owning a studio is not an extension of teaching in itself. It's running a business. So there's a couple different ways that you can go with this, owning your own type of thing versus owning a franchise. Independent ownership. If you have a vision of what you want your studio to be, and maybe you want to start with mat or only do mat, or if you want to do like mat and tower, if you have a color palette and a vibe and like all these brimming ideas, and you have your own direction and you're excited by building from scratch, then independent ownership might be best for you. You don't have to pay any royalties. You don't have anybody saying, that you have to do things a certain way or implement this class or implement this method that you don't really support. You control your budget a lot easier with doing your own type of thing, especially if you start only with mat or only with a couple reformers. But the downside though is that like the risk is all yours. Like you have to learn how to manage, how to do payroll, how to get the system running for people to book, how to be a technical support, how to schedule classes. Like scheduling classes is its own big thing. What class types, what package costs. Cost is very important to go into that and deciding what numbers are correct for where you are in your business and where you are like logistically. Systems and marketing is all on you. The training programs are all on you. Everything is on you. If you are looking for a smaller studio, if you're going to do like a smaller studio, like 10 and less, it's probably going to be a little bit easier. And yes, you can chat GPT and say, tell me everything I need to do to run this business, but like it's just completely different, and you need to be ready for that. Deciding a launch date. The fun parts is all in like the aesthetics and the marketing, but You are responsible to get that thing up and running and getting people through the door. And if you've never done anything like that, and if you've never managed previous history in like marketing, it might be a lot, then you're gonna have to do a lot of learning to get yourself there. A lot of creative freedom, but also like you have to learn a lot on your own. Now, franchising is when you're buying an established business that has their own business model, training. They usually have marketing support, they usually have technical support. Your business plan is laid out for you, and you're paying for that business plan, and you're paying for the support. You have to pay royalties, which is usually like around like 6%. You don't have any creative liberties. The build out is exactly how they're all going to look. It's run by corporate down to like the bench and art that's in there. All the classes are alike. There's really no creative deviation. If you are like obsessed with Club Pilates or another like Pilates franchise, and you're like, I want this so bad, this is my dream, then that's recommended for you to go that route. But if you are like, oh, but I wish like this color was this, and I kind of hate this colors, and I don't really like these classes, then I say go for independent. The best part is that there's a little bit less thinking because most of it has been developed for you, and they kind of take you along with them from like inquiry to like opening day. They set you up for success because they want their business to do well as well. But either way, doing independent versus franchising, you need starting capital. So most owners are going to need like private funding, either from themselves or like investors. You need to deal with, investors, which is all good, or a business loan or an SBA loan. If you're doing an independent studio, you don't really have to have everything immediately, which is kind of nice. Like you can slowly get that together. But if you're franchising, you need that capital like kind of soon. And Pilates studios, if you're doing reformer, like the more apparatus you have, the more expensive. So a mat studio is going to be a way like astronomically less expensive to start than a reformer studio, because if you go on balancebody.com, those reformers are like $2,000-$3,000 plus shipping plus building them, because it's going to be you building them unless you pay somebody to do it. If you want Cadillacs, like all these things, like they cost a lot of money and you'll be expected to pay. Franchising is expensive, but it's expensive because they have a proven method. It's a little bit less of a risk. So that's not to deter you and say if you don't have hundreds of thousands saved up that you can't have a studio. It just means that you need to be creative with loans or saving, or maybe starting out a smaller type of studio first and then going for a bigger one. It's all up to you to figure out with your finances. Location is a topic in and of itself, because commercial rentals, me being a realtor, but commercial rentals are usually a lot longer leases. Like you're locked in for like 3, 5, 10 years. A lot of them are 10 years. And if your business fails or you realize that it's not for you, you will need somebody to take over the lease, and then you're responsible for making sure that they succeed too, because if they go bankrupt or something, the lease falls back on you. So make sure that you are getting a real estate lawyer and checking everything with like commercial leasing and meeting with financial advisors, because that's really important whether you franchise or not. Franchising, they're going to kind of help you and guide you with that a little bit more. But if you're doing it by yourself, like it's really something that I say get a financial advisor and get a real estate lawyer, so that you protect yourself and your business. Other things to note about being an owner is that if your goal is to just open a business and manage it or have somebody else manage it, think again, unless you have money to support that. And even then, like when you're an owner, you are completely invested. That is your baby. So in the beginning, if you're an instructor, you're going to be teaching most of the classes until you get some more people in there, especially if you don't have the funds to pay them yet, to pay a bunch of instructors yet. You're going to be teaching most of those classes. You are responsible for every single thing. You are on call 24/7, even when the studio's not running, because if somebody can't come, you either have to cancel the class, which is annoying, or go there, which is annoying. So if you think for a second that if you're starting a new studio and you're not going to be teaching very often there, think again. For me personally, I feel like having a mat and chair studio, honestly, mat, chair, and tower studio is like probably where I'd keep it. I don't know, it just feels like you could do like, for me, it just feels like a lot more simple, because if I ever go to sell it, like I don't have to worry about selling 12 reformers and moving those. I just have to deal with like the smaller stuff. And I'd probably do it for like a good time, not a long time, because I don't want to be teaching 24/7. I don't want to be teaching full time because it personally burns me out. But I think someday, maybe, I don't know. Watching my mom go through it and then like managing studios changed my perspective on it. There's so much beauty in owning, managing, instructing full part-time. There's beauty in all of it, but you have to understand the responsibilities that come with each role, whether you're in it part-time or not. So I asked for some questions and I did get some. The first question somebody had, they actually want to own a gym, but they were still like curious about like what it's like to own. So for a gym, obviously it's going to be completely different because you are probably having like a lot of equipment and then people are paying to use that equipment rather than like having instructors. You might have private trainers there, you might be doing like group fitness as well, but I think like the same advice goes of like getting a financial advisor and a lawyer, because like wherever you're going, you're probably going to be renting or having like a commercial lease. Understand that equipment is really expensive. You can start smaller and start to like bring stuff in as time goes on, but also understand that it takes a long time to get a business up and running because you need like online systems and marketing and branding and doing like email blasts and having like a system for that. Like, are you going to go with MailChimp, or are you going to do like a HubSpot thing? You need a CRM, so you have to spend money to do a CRM. Understanding that, getting brushed up on all that. Like the build out, you're going to have to pay for the build out. If you just kind of like found a nice place and you're just going to decorate it a little bit more superficially, that's great. You also have to wait till things are up to code. So you have to get like inspected by fire, inspected by like, if you do any construction, you have to have like past inspections. Whether you're an instructor or owner, you need insurance as well. The biggest differences between owning a gym and owning a studio is the studio is going to be a little bit more like class-based and instructor-based, whereas the gym is probably going to be a little bit more membership-based and kind of upkeep and management of that. I think it's probably less work, I say that lightly, to own a gym versus a boutique fitness studio that you're having classes all day. And I think it's a great idea. I am all for less work. That's obviously why if I had a studio, it would be chair like at some point and the tower, because it's less. It's a lot, but it's less. I don't want to have to order reformers and build them and do maintenance. I don't think I ever want to do maintenance on a reformer ever again, because I did way too much in my last job. And then I'm like having flashbacks to me and my mom like pushing them and moving them. Not for me. And then the second question was about owning, which we went over. Some closing points for you guys. If you're gonna do instructing with Pilates, choose a certification that makes sense for you, your pockets, where you are in life and what your goals are, as well as what kind of Pilates you want to do. When I first got into this, I was a lot different than I am now. I started with athletic. I was very jumpy and like and then over time, when I started spending, teaching at a more classical studio, I actually got a lot more serious in my craft, which is like, so I just didn't foresee myself taking on that route. And I got a lot more technical, and my style is very much like proper setup. A lot of places, and this might be you, that you like this, they get you into the move and then moving and then they start adjusting you. Whereas like my philosophy is like, let's set them up first so that they do it right from the jump, which takes a little bit more time, but that's my style. And that's why like certain places I can't teach, because I worked so hard to get to this style, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm proud of like what I did to build myself up, and all the hours I spent when I was first, learning, and all those hours I spend now, like perfecting my craft and learning more. I worked really hard to get up to that point, and I want to honor it. So I don't want to just, go the other way for no reason. And that might be you. You might find that you go in thinking that you're gonna like or want to be like one thing, and then you find your way and you realize, actually, this is kind of my own thing now, and this is my flow, and I'm gonna teach here and here because they jive with that flow and they like that. And not every place is gonna like your style or be accommodating to that style. And you might like taking a class that you don't necessarily like teaching. I love athletic Pilates, and I love like the Megaformer and all that, and I love classical Pilates and I love contemporary Pilates. Doesn't mean I teach all of them, but don't be afraid to make this journey your own, because it is your own. And never get discouraged about wanting to get into it or wanting to own something of your own. It's a beautiful thing to do both, as long as you understand what you're getting yourself into and you try to prep yourself as much as you can before you go into it. Then all I can say is have fun. and invite me to your studio. So my next video is going to be tips for new instructors that really helped me, how to develop your craft, and what helped me the most early on in my Pilates journey. If this helped you, like, subscribe, and share it with somebody that you think might like it as well.